You know who loves Izotope? This guy. Everyone here at Ruinous Media can't get enough of Izotope's intuitively designed plugins for audio restoration, mixing, and mastering. This year, make a resolution to yourself to say goodbye to bad audio and hello to super clear, wide, dynamic, clean audio using Izotope RX11 and the new Ozone 12. Master every track's potential with their complete 20-tool suite. Go to izotope.com and use code FRET10 at checkout for 10% off. That's FRET10 at checkout for 10% off. And go to izotope.com. That spelling is izotope.com. I'd like to welcome our newest sponsor, Schecter Guitars. This holiday season, go over to schecterguitars.com and see what high-quality goodies they have waiting there for you. Premium feel and unbeatable price. See why guitarists like Isaac Brock from Modest Mouse, Robert Smith from The Cure, and Ernie C. from Body Count all love Schecter Guitars. A wide variety of styles and builds with high-end components and affordable prices for touring guitarists. Built to last. Go treat yourself and try something new you've always wanted to check out. Schecter Guitars has it all. Hey, what's happening? Before we jump into the show, I wanted to see if you had any music on a hard drive. You have a band, you have a project, and you want to self-release your own music. Well, there's an easy way to do it. You can go to distrokid.com/VIP/hyphenate and go get your music up on all the streamers. You keep 100% of your royalties, and you can get 30% off by using this code. It's a great, easy way to get your music up on the streamers and share it with your fans, your friends, your family, your mom, your dog, everybody. Everyone wants to hear it. But go to distrokid.com/VIP/hyphenate, HYPHENATE, and send me the link. I want to hear it too. Send your mom the link. Send your dog the link. They all want to hear it too.
We were able to, go to Jabberjaw without knowing who the band was and just be like, let's see who's going to be here tonight.
What's happening, everybody? Welcome to Hyphenate. This is our show for Thursday, January 29th, 2026. What's going on? What are you up to? This year is fully kicking my ass and having fun, kind of, sort of, surviving. I hope everybody else is putting one foot in front of the other. I have a really great guest today. On today's show, I have a great conversation with an old friend, Mr. Julian Gross. I first met Julian when he was playing drums in the band Liars. We had so much fun on a tour we did, I think it was 2007? No, 2008? First part 2008, that sounds right. Yeah, we had a lot of fun hanging out on that tour and getting to know him, and then we became roommates. I moved in to his house for a brief period of time, and that was really fun. And then we kept in touch, and we've done work together, and he's an incredible graphic designer, artist, brand specialist, all-around creative director, I think is the term we get into a little bit. We talk about all the many hats, the many hyphenated hats that Mr. Julian Gross wears in his day-to-day employment. But yeah, it's a really fun conversation. We get all over the place, as we are wont to do on this podcast. If you would like to know more about Julian Gross, you can follow him on the Instagram. His screen name is Gross Julian with 2 S's in Gross. And you can also go to his website, grossjulian.com. See what he's doing there, switching it up. He also has an awesome art gallery in Chinatown here in Los Angeles, grossgallery.com. So grossjulian.com, grossgallery.com, and grossjulian on the Instagrams. And yeah, thanks, Julian, for coming on. It's really fun. Yeah, Julian's done so many rad projects. He's done a lot of the art direction and branding things for the Yeah Yeahs. Who else is on here? I'm looking at his thing. TV on the Radio. He's done some great stuff for. He's got High Desert Art Fair coming up, looks like. Tons and tons of cool stuff. If you like, the kind of music that I like in the world I come from here, the no age related world, I'm sure you've seen his art all over the place. But now we get to talk a little bit more and get into it all, mix it up. All right. Hang in there. Call your representatives. Abolish ICE. Let's not fund these fuckers. let's do what we can. I'm trying to keep it chill here, but goddamn, I feel like I lose my mind more and more, a little bit more every day. My mind slips away, just the atrocities that we are being asked to live through. So do what you can, raise your voice where you can. It does make a difference. We all make a difference as much as it feels hopeless. We're going to get through this, and we are going to figure out, some way out of this thing. We got to do it together. We all got to stand up collectively together and do everything we can. So, hang in there, everybody. Keep fighting the good fight. All right. See you on the other side. Julian, what's up? Thanks so much for coming on Hyphenate. How you doing, man?
Hi, good. Thanks for having me here.
Yeah, man. It's good to see you. It's good to catch up.
It is good to catch up.
Yeah. What are you working on? What's going on? What's the latest these days?
Working on, a few things, mostly in the same ballpark of stuff. Just finished Melissa Etheridge.
Whoa.
I know, which is kind of cool for us old timers, remembering when she was,
Come to my window.
Exactly.
Huge. So yeah, I mean, are you all around brand director? How do you sort of classify it? And it's probably good for me to have it so I can have it written down in the description. Are you graphic designer, curator?
It switches
stylist?
around depending on the project,
Okay.
I'm usually creative director and or designer. With Melissa Etheridge, I'm doing this one with my wife, or she's sort of doing the creative direction and photography, and then she hands it to me, and I'll do all the packaging and the design and logos and branding for everything and how that stuff works. And
that's amazing.
so yeah, just kind of like, and so depends. Been doing a few projects with her. We just finished Blackwater Holy Lights record. Which is really cool. I really like that band a lot. If you're familiar with them.
No, I don't think I know them.
It's an all-girl metal band.
Whoa.
That's been shifting a little bit to sort of like shoegaze this last record. And they're just badass musicians. They're super cool. It's really fun to work on it. It is. It's cool. And the artwork looks really good. What am I working on? Looking at my little...
and then how much are you working with the artists themselves in these kind of situations? I mean, I imagine it's floating. I mean,
it's always a discussion and a sort of back and forth, where I'll have the assets, and then usually I'll make a whole bunch of versions of things that I like, and then we kind of narrow it down to what the direction in it is. And once the direction is there, I start filling in the gaps. And for me, it's the album cover is the first thing, that once I get the visual identity of that.
And then are you pitching on these? Like, will you go in and put a deck together for a bunch of different bands and just see which ones get selected? Or are they coming to you and hiring you, and then from there you develop the thing? I mean,
it's usually hiring me from
that's
there.
So cool.
Sometimes there's a pitch, but usually not, actually.
That's such a great place to be creatively, right? Where you're a known quantity in that sort of world, where someone just comes to you, but from the strength of your past work. Like, we want the guy who did this. I imagine it's usually how the conversation goes, and then they find you're the guy. Okay, sorry.
It's usually something like through friends of friends, like Melissa, her manager. I think Lauren. Oh my God. Laurel Stern.
Oh, okay.
So Laurel Stern's her manager. So she's like, oh, we got this. And I did some other work. It's for Sun Records. And that's, I guess, the other thing sometimes, when you work for a record label, you're on their radar. And I did this other guy, Robert Randolph, for Sun Records.
Sun Records, like the Memphis, like Elvis records, Sun Records? Oh, yeah. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's pretty cool because they got such a legacy and they're kind of trying to start it back up. And that's what Melissa Etheridge is on this time.
Oh, that's interesting.
By like Shooter Jennings. And so it's cool. It's cool to be part of these legacies.
Oh,
like
absolutely.
That. Especially Sun Records, which has got such a cool history.
Yeah. I remember I had a Sun Records T-shirt from tour years ago. It was just the kind of thing, from the actual, the whole studio, the setup and everything, the way they had it there, right on. I don't where was it? Was it on Beale Street? It was just like right on a corner, and it kind of was. I don't know. It's probably still there. Yeah, it's like a historical place.
I only went once and it was closed.
Ah,
This is the day I went there and it was like, oh, and I remember kind of being in the parking lot and kind of looking in the window, you know.
that's awesome. So that's, yeah. So let's go back to the beginning. How did this all get started? I mean, I know some of the story, but we'll let's share it for the audience. How do you find yourself? I mean, obviously it's incredible, all the cool stuff you're working on now, but where did art first sort of enter into your world?
I mean, art has always been a predominant role in
Mhm.
whatever I've done for as long as I can remember. When I was super young, I was in the graffiti world of Los Angeles. So, I mean, as long as I can remember, when I was 13, 14, I started, which is really typography, right? It's the joy of letters and time. And yes, of course, maybe a little bit of the vandal and
Criminality.
yeah, but growing up in Venice, it's kind of par for the course in the 80s and 90s. It was a bit of a criminal city back then.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and, it started with graffiti. And then at Venice High, they had photo school. And that was like printing in the darkroom era of stuff. And that really changed a lot for my world in the sense of like I realized I could make something beautiful, and I wasn't able to do that with drawing or painting. And I had friends that could, but I couldn't execute something in that way. And that really changed something for me. And that ended up leading me to Cal Arts years and years later. I went to Santa Monica City College for a couple of years where I did photography and glass blowing and screen printing, and just took all these fun classes and everything. And then I moved around from Portland to Austin in the early 90s. And then finally I was like, man, what am I doing? I'm sick of being a fucking dishwasher. I don't want to do this anymore. So I went to Cal Arts, and I had some other friends who were there. And it was Cal Arts that really changed everything for me. And it was at Cal Arts where I met Angus and Aaron.
Oh, right. Yeah. We didn't even get into this whole backstory. I'm sure I've teased it up at the top of the show, but yeah, that's right. Yeah. We met through you being the drummer of the Liars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it all kind of is together in the same thing, because I went to Cal Arts in the art school. I ended up taking design classes. Angus was my studio mate. Aaron lived in our studio without going to school there. And so we all became friends. And once they graduated, or Angus graduated like a semester before me and moved to New York to be in this band. And the reason why I'm saying is that this was the beginning of this kind of work for me is because I was already doing designer, and he came through with Liars on that first record. And I went to go see him play, and they fucking just ripped so hard. I just loved it. And we opened for them at The Smell in this band called Book of Giant Pets that I was in. No, we were called Bedroom Walls then. Bedroom Walls that I was in at The Smell. But I saw them at Spaceland, and I just thought they were so good. I loved it. And so I was like, who's your designer? And they're like, we don't have a designer. And I was like, I'm going to be your designer. At that point, I was doing a lot of websites. So I was like, I'm going to make you a website. And they're like, okay. And so I made
this is before
website.
you were even in the band. You were like,
yes.
Yeah, that's cool.
I was like, and I was looking for when I was in art school, I realized I don't want to go out into the world and work for another artist.
Because that's a lot of what happens coming out of art school is you kind of intern or you assist or, sort of get studio time under another artist. And then from there you make connections and then hopefully branch out, become
exactly
your own artist. Yeah.
And hopefully you use those kind of stuff. And I was like, I don't want to spend all my days doing someone else's art. And then I'm like, where could I find time for mine And so when they came through, I was just like, I'm going to do this for you. And then I did the website, and it was actually still one of my favorite websites. It was like a phone that was like floating. You push the button. This is back in the Flash days of 2000,
Amazing. Was it for a specific record or no? This was the time too when bands, pre-social media, a band just had a website. You just had a,
that's what you had.
Yeah.
It was after Trench, and they had, I think an EP that was going to come out soon. And so it was all like, click on it for tour dates. And, there was songs and loops that you could play. It was fun back then, actually, websites. And after I did that, I did a poster for them. And then I did the record, the EP fins to make us more fish-like. And that was the first record that I ever did, was fins to make us more fish-like. And I really use them. And I'm so thankful millions of ways for them. This is just one of the ways they've really changed my life, was that, I kept putting myself there because I did not want to do what I was doing anymore. I was doing website designs for his clothing company, and it was cool because I would do stuff with Sanrio and Frazetta and, Hello Kitty and Peanuts, and I was doing these collab websites that were cool. But so anyway, I remember I thought,
wait, did you like Frank Frazetta? No, Frazetta?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
What was the thing you did with them? I follow the daughters now. It's like the Frazetta girls on Instagram. They sort of keep the dads, stuff in circulation.
I was working for this company called We Love Fine, and they were mostly a girls' clothing company.
Okay.
From like girls like 15 to 35, sort of. And they would do these licenses.
Okay.
So they would go to Frazetta and they would license some art for Frazetta and then do these kind of collab shirts together.
Gotcha.
And so then I would have to work streetwear,
but
for
early
cap sleeve girl shirts.
Oh, how funny.
And,
but with like the Vampira stuff, I'm trying to even think of like, what's the Frazetta thing that's the girl stuff? So much as Molly Hatchet and Conan kind of stuff.
Their collab was just like some of those like, girl on lion.
Yeah, that's incredible. I guess that's very, kind of post 90s sort of ex-girl sort of
It
thing.
was that's a good point. It was ex-girl kind of like transferred iron-ons at that time.
70s throwback stuff. Wow, that's funny.
And it was cool. So I'd be able to work with these estates. I'd work with the Frazetta estate to create a website that was both of them together. And I would do that with Peanuts, with Charles Schultz estate and Hello Kitty estate. And so I had these fun collabs, and we had like a music designer who worked in-house. So they're like, I could make little beat machines and Flash, and we'd create these cool little weird, again, websites with the big animated intros and,
That's funny.
And, how to make little, actually, I really loved it, and I enjoyed that. But I told myself, I want to get out of here. I want to find a job where I can travel. And I was trying to think, how am I going to get out of here? How do I go see the world? And that was when Angus was like, hey, we need merch. And I was like, I have an idea. I was like, I'm going to go and buy bags of thrift store clothes. I'm going to get some screens made, and I'm going to hand make all the clothes. And I'm going to go on tour with you and sell them all in a rack. Because they're all different.
Yeah.
And so I got a screen printing of all these different things and stencils. And I made, besides making one-off shirts, sweaters, and jackets and dresses, I had tons of ties that I would screen print, and hats and oven mitts, and like just anything I could find.
Yeah.
I would have this big array of like, it just kind of looked like a flea market. And then we went on tour, and it was Liars, Yeah Yeahs, and John Spencer Blues Explosion.
Oh my gosh. That's so cool.
And Liars and Yeah Yeahs, we all jumped in a bus together. Dave Siddick, he was the guitar tech for the Yeah Yeahs at the time. And we went on tour, and I slanged merch, and they liked having me there. I was a little bit of comic relief. I was so excited, like a little puppet dog, just like, this is amazing. We're in a tour bus, and we're traveling for about a month or 2 months, maybe, I think. We did like the States, and then they took me to Europe with them, where I did the same thing and made more clothes. And
how did it go over? Were people eating it up? Were they loving it, or was it a pain in the ass? Were we holding stuff up to people? It was fun. It worked.
I got a job at Urban Outfitters through it, where when I was in Philly, this woman comes up and she's like, "Who's making this?" And I'm like, "I make this." And she's like, "You don't make this." I'm like, "Whatever." And she's like, "Do you really?" I'm like, "I do. Yeah, this is, I make all this stuff." And she's like, "I'll pay you to make some stuff for Urban Outfitters, and we'll send you all these blah, blah, blah." And I was like, "Yeah, sure." I didn't really she's like, "Give me your address." And she's like, "I'll send something to you this weekend." I'm like, "I'm on tour. I'm not back for like 3 weeks." And she's like, tell me when you're back. And I gave her my information. I just didn't really think about it. And I got home, and 4 days later, a huge box of hats showed up, like 200 trucker hats.
Oh,
And I was like, oh, okay. And so then I got stencils and spray paint. I made all these trucker hats, and then I sent them back. And then, so for about 2 years, it was called the resale department. And I did that for like 2 years, doing tennis shoes and high heel pumps and leather mini skirts and
you were
purses.
just silk screening. You were just putting stuff on.
Silk screening, stencils, like depending on it, they'd send me like 500 army belts. Wow. They had all this dead stock. And so they would send me the dead stock. I would remake it and then send it back. And it was called the renewal department. And at the time, there wasn't many of us, and I was kind of the main person. So for 2 years, even when I got in Liars after touring with them, where I sort of got promoted to drummer, I still did that for them until it tours too much. But eventually they did. So Liars, that led to this little clothing line that I had called Velcro Mustache for Urban Outfitters.
Oh my God.
And then from there,
hold on, wait. I wanted to kind of, but yeah, before we keep going, I'm curious about that tour, because I feel like at the time, I mean, this is probably 2001, 2002.
Yeah.
That tour, like
2002,
probably 2000, just post 9/11, and this is New York, and this is the Strokes, and everything kind of happening all around that sort of time in music. But I remember that tour specifically because I liked I still like John Spencer Blues Explosion, and and I thought it was so great. And then, but there was sort of that feeling of a sea change or a cultural change sort of happening of what was coming out of New York, and I feel like there was the sense that I got as a California suburban kid was that it was like, oh, the openers are blowing the main, act off the stage, and the times have changed. What was cool now just kind of got flipped. I mean, what from the inside of it, obviously, I mean, this is a simplistic sort of snarky spin magazine review. I'm requoting here 25 years later, but I mean, what did it feel like while you were doing it, and how were the John Spencer camp? How were they dealing with it? I imagine they were probably tired at that point too, in some regards.
So unfortunately, you're not wrong. And Liars and Yeah actually at that point were about even in popularity. Mm-hmm. So they would alternate who opens and who goes second every night.
Okay.
And people would leave a lot by the time Blues Explosion got on. They were going there to see the Yeah-Yeahs. They were going there to see Liars. And it would thin out. Sometimes that was, rough, I'm sure.
Yeah.
On them a bit to see that, because I really remember that happening. And, their camp didn't really talk to him that much, except for Russell.
Okay. Russell
was the one who we all kind of linked up with the most. He's a great guy. I don't know if you've ever
I've never met him.
A personality.
He's like kind of a big goofball.
He is he is a big goofball, huge personality, just the biggest thing in the room. His voice is booming. He's 6'3", he's 250. He's
he always made the drums seem tiny, but he had the tiniest kit too. It was like a kick snare, no toms, maybe a floor tom sometimes, maybe a cymbal. It just seemed like there was hardly anything in the kit.
Very small kit.
Yeah, and
what's cool about them is they never make set lists.
Oh,
they just kind of and someone will just start one and they do the other, or he's just like bell bottoms, and they're like, all right, we're doing bell bottoms.
I mean, and what an interesting band too is, especially just the two guitars, and I'm sure even to what at least with Nick and what they were there's some musical shared DNA and similarities, but also just what a difference probably 6-7 years makes, and we're old enough now to kind of have that experience in our own careers of we were the hot shit, and then the new kids come up and you're like, oh, now it's these kids, okay. And it's the nature of the wave of attention or whatever it is, so I feel like looking back on it, it's gonna happen to everybody at some point, but it must have been a wild time.
I remember when they were opening up, I saw them play at, I think, the Palace, opening up for the Breeders in, I don't know, maybe 92. And everyone's like, oh, Blues Explosion, you're going to love them. They're so crazy, Blues Explosion. And I was like, what's going on? I was like, oh, okay, whatever. I'm excited to see, Breeders. And, I was like 17, 18. And Blues Explosion blew me away. I'd never seen a theremin before. I didn't know what that was. He's just throwing himself around stage while making it make noise. And they were just like, it was the, blues that you can attach yourself to, but it was this new form of it. And like,
kind of garagey, funky punk thing of it all. Yeah.
I was just like, I fucking love this. I heard them before I heard of like the Cramps or something.
Sure, yeah.
My trajectory of music was so electronic growing up, and it was metal and classic rock when I was a kid. But on my own, it became hip hop and like rave and house and stuff like that in the early 90s. So
that was the time.
Just starting to make this transition over to live music via Jabberjaw and that kind of world for the first time. And I fucking loved it. So I was stoked to be on tour with Blues Explosion because I loved it.
Yeah, I heard them first on the Toy Machine at Templeton's part, the opening part of the skate video Heavy Metal. He skates to bell bottoms. And he
skates the bell bottoms, right?
Yeah, and it's great. Yeah. And I remember going out to Rhino Records like that week after getting the tape, and just watching it 40 times in that weekend, and then the next week going up to Rhino Records and like, I need something, and I like wrote it down, like waited to the end of it, like, what is this thing? There's something called a John Spencer Blues Explosion, and they're like, oh yeah, over here. And I went to the cassettes and I got the orange cassette, it was like an orange case with the silver, silver folded, thing with it. And I was just like, all right, and it was in my Walkman. It became a staple. I had that whole record like tattooed on the inside of my brain. It's a cool melodic energy. Okay. And then so you're just there on merch for that zone, and then from that and then within the next year, by the next record, you're in the band, you're on drums, you're now the 3-piece, and you're locked in.
We're now 3-piece. And they sort of parted ways with
2 other members.
Yeah.
And then now you knew Aaron and Angus already from art school days. So this is just now an extension of that. And then how did it feel like, where were your drum chops or where were your sort of musical chops at within that point? I mean, in terms of like, I guess we've hit mostly on like the art stuff, but in terms of like musical and performing as a percussionist, as a drummer, like what was that like, kind of just jumping into something like that?
I've never had super chops, but I started playing music when I was 21. I moved to Portland and started playing drums in a band in 94. And then, when I went to Cal Arts, I took Balinese gamelan for a few years.
Hard.
I love that.
Sorry, I'm going to just derail for a second. Another tangent. Yeah. Joel Kayak invited me to a gamelan session up here right near our house in Sunland. And man, it was hard. It was just hard to do.
It's a trip.
But I loved it. It was patterns.
You get used to it. Yeah. But because you have to mute after everything you hit.
Muting. But I loved it. I mean, I'm a fan of hearing it, but then to getting into performing, I was like, this is really kind of a math rocky sort of brain too. And it's like, I didn't get far enough along to really get the whole hang of it. I'm still counting and doing things. I was like, these people aren't counting. They have movements. It's a choreography in a way that was like, this is beyond. I'm over here trying to count the beats and what time signature am I in and what measure am I on. They're like, it's not that.
It doesn't really work like that. Yeah. You kind of listen to the guy who's on the Kajar, who's like, he's giving you the click. And, honestly, how it was written for us. I don't know how it's supposed to or not, but they write it out numerically. And I played this thing called maybe I played the Kajar. I can't remember the name of it. I played sort of like a bass.
Okay.
So there's only like 8 keys.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And so it was like 1, 5, 2, 3, 2, 3. And that's how it was written. And I loved it. This Nauman Wenton was the teacher at Cal Arts, and he was an amazing man, is hopefully still. I still played a year after I graduated. I still went, and we would like go all around LA and play these
cool with a group
international festivals. Yeah, with the Cal Arts group. Wow. I just loved it. It was such a cool release for me.
Oh yeah,
with like all the music. We'd practice 2 to 3 times a week, and I would just get to go to the class and for an hour or two just kind of be able to put the other school stuff away.
It's almost it's a form of meditation or transcendence.
It was
kind of thing.
Yeah.
Wow.
and I'm not it's not about grades. Cal Arts is not about grades. They don't really even have a grade system. Um, uh, and so I was playing that, and I was playing in a band with my roommate called Bedroom Walls. I was kind of playing brushes and like bundles, so I was very light playing. So when they asked me to be in Liars, it was a bit nerving, because I hadn't played with sticks in a really long time. So I remember practicing for that. I did it all to Missy Elliott, Under Construction. I would just like put that record on, and I would just try to like play those drums to kind of get used to it.
Amazing.
And yeah, and so that was exciting. I don't think I really quite even understood what I was getting into. There's a bit of naivety back then too. You're like, fuck yeah, I'm a yes person to everything. A really close friend of mine, Alon, said that about me, and I was like, huh. I never really thought about that. But he's like, you just say yes. People's like, hey, you want to do something? I'm like, yep, let's do it. And it's, yeah. And I feel like saying yes leads you to these great places. Led me to you.
Oh yeah.
And our tours, and and so it was really fun. And then I was scared, to a bit, like, how does this thing work? And
the band thing, you mean? Like, yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
And with Angus and Aaron, and what's that dynamic like? And I was used to like sort of get in a room, sort of just kind of jam things out. And some of that we did, but they also had a good amount sort of like put down a bit demo wise before I even got there.
Yeah. Well, I'm coming into a band too that's changing lineups like that, and sort of in the thrust of the cultural conversation. I'm sure the two of them were looking to redesign their process as well, and sort of like fighting for the sort of creative reins of what does this all mean, and what do we do with this all this attention and success, and where do we go from here, and how do we serve our creative side yet still maintain something like a career that they probably weren't setting out for, but now are driving a career of a independent musician. I think it's a thing that I enjoy when I can talking about on the podcast, because it's I think the conversations are usually so simplified, like, oh, these poor kids, or they're all messed up on drugs, or it's this or it's that, or they're too young and too dumb, live fast, die young. And it's like, I think this is way it's way oversimplified. It's a usually more complicated thing of like a lot of ambition and a lot of talent and a lot of just entering worlds that don't really fit. I think artists, real artistic, creative people, don't really fit in the overall touring machine, because this is about reproduction. It's more of a Xerox factory. And it's like, cool, you have an idea, and we sold your idea. Now go do it 80 times in the next 2 months. And you're like, huh?
Well, that's the interesting part that you're bringing up. Go do it again, and that was something for Liars where, Angus and Aaron wrote that first record themselves, and they had Pat and Ron come in and kind of play it. And this record, the second record, They're Wrong So We Drowned, that I came in on, they didn't want to redo the same thing. They, like you're saying, they're artists, and they wanted to expand what they're thinking and not pigeonhole themselves in a sound and not be a thing. So how do you break free from that? Or how do you maybe do what's unexpected? And that's sort of what that record turned into, was the unexpected, which, for better or for worse, gave us a bit of our legacy of complicated. Or
yeah, well, it's hard, and again, I mean, this is everyone's probably right about mid-20s, maybe just getting towards the later side of 20s, and it's a lot of it sounds so trivial, but I mean, but these are huge things to do, and you're asking people who aren't necessarily career-minded people to sort of make these large career decisions about their life. I mean, like, and I think we're almost in some ways have a language for it in terms of like content creators or branding. I feel like there's a much more transparent, almost nakedly like transactional cultural conversation around creatives today in 2025 than there was 20 years ago, much less in the 80s, like all the kind of stuff, it was a different conversation back then. I think if you said things like, this is the product, we're selling records, these kind of things, you would be seen as, insincere or not artistically valid, when in fact, so it's like you're trying to play the game of like, I'm a serious artist, and you work with these record people are like, we need you to sell 1 million CDs next quarter or else we're all gonna get fired. And you're like,
and,
I don't get it. It's so confusing.
And you're right, because there's also a damned if you do, damned if you don't way. There's like Strokes or White Stripes, they come out of a record and it's like this massive success, and then the second record sounds the same and like, oh, it's just the same. But then if you do something totally different, it's like, what's this departure? What are they doing? This doesn't sound anything like the other one. And you're like, well, what, and so it does go also then back to you saying this branding idea, right, where I guess capitalism and branding works.
Sure.
But sometimes artistically that isn't always the most fun.
Right. Well, a brand is a thing you buy. I mean, you go to the grocery store and you buy a jar of mayonnaise, and you buy the first one, it tasted great, and you want to go back and buy the same one. That's the brand. You look for the same label, the same thing, and if it tasted totally different, you'd be so pissed you'd never buy it again. You know what I mean? But art isn't that. You know what I mean? Art isn't. But music and what we've done in our careers. I mean, if you're selling, once this thing has a price tag on it, then it is now a product, and you're now selling commercial art. And that's it. And that's, you know what I mean? You could say what you want it to say. It can be meta. It can be interesting. It could be this, but you've essentially become a commercial capitalist, artist. And
I mean,
for better
it's funny
or worse.
You say it.
Yeah.
It's on a side shoe to that idea. It is something that I talk about when people are like, oh, you get to do art for your job. And I'm like, I don't do art. And like, hey, you get to make all this album art and stuff. I'm like, that's not art, that's design. Essentially, yeah. I'm creating a packaging to sell a product, and the product is music. Now, I'm lucky that the product that I'm working with, I could be like, what about green goo pouring out of an eyeball? They're like, that sounds great. I doesn't have to sell a taco or a shampoo or something like that. So I do get this amazing creative freedom to make stuff. But essentially, I'm trying to sell a product. And I'm trying to visualize that product in an interesting way.
But not just sell a product. I mean, this particular product you're trying to sell is actively being undervalued, undercut, and everything. You know what I mean? Like you're getting your legs chopped out from underneath you as you're building the ship. It's being taken apart simultaneous to this whole thing too. So which I just feel like, again, in our lifetime, in the last 40 years, to just have seen what this, this hallowed sort of tradition of records, for sale, physical media, kind of get this like devalued in such a way. And again, this isn't me just old man shaking my fist at a cloud. I think this is an actual cultural conversation I'm curious to have. You know what I mean? Like,
you're absolutely right. People used to be able to make Liar's success. If we came out 10 years before, we would have all been able to buy houses. But even pre-streaming, and some of that, we were just living on minimum wage, essentially.
Yeah.
But now there's no value in music. What's the value there? It's almost like a calling card more, or like something for your brand and your identity. I work with Moses Sumney a lot on his records, and he's an incredible musician who makes these wonderful records. And he can't pay his bills from that success of that. But it all works for his overall package of he's a musician, he's a model, he's a director, he's an actor. It's one of the things that help build up his whole persona. It can't just be that one thing anymore, no matter how good you are at something. And I always think about that for him. Oh, if I make this record, the record gives me this clout. It gives me this,
it buys you those 15 minutes of press. It gives you something to talk about. You can, you get a foothold, get your foot in the door to a larger PR campaign, machinery. And then from that, yeah, you have to sort of, you're always trying to level up or trying to ladder up to some other opportunities that eventually there's a paycheck involved in one of these rungs of the ladder.
Well, you have to be a multi-hyphenate these days to like do something. You have to have, if you're just a musician, you're a musician and a barista.
Of course. Well, yeah.
So it's like be a musician and an actor and a director. And
that's so much about what this show is, and I feel like it was sort of that feeling of like, in some ways it's the dirty word, but it's so much the normal, I think it also just butts up, just from our generation, this sort of like uncomfortability of it all, of like, the Rolling Stone, Keith Richards wouldn't exist today in the same sort of way. Keith Richards would be a model and an actor and a guitar player. And so, you know what I mean? Like if there's it's like there's we battle with the ghosts of sort of authenticity and creative past when we live in this kind of, you could call it dystopian, or you could call it fascist, or you could call it a lot of words, but we live in a particular environment and time right now where if your main goal is creative output, you got to wrap yourself into some interesting shapes, kind of pretzel logic of shapes to sort of make it all make sense down the road. And, being a father trying to explain to somebody like, well, so what do you do? Like, well, I play music and got a podcast. I don't know.
Yeah, so. It's like, oh, well, what is the thing that you make or design? And you're like, well, yeah, I mean, there's this that I do, but there's also this as a side hustle. There's this as another side hustle. I mean, I've got like 3 side hustles outside of design. There's, and then even within design, that's trying to do. It's always keep looking at my board, and for the most part, it's all music. I mean, there's some other stuff, but movie poster here that I'm working on for Focus for Blair. Do you know Blair, the captain?
Yeah.
I thought you knew him. Yeah,
that's
and
great.
So working on Blair, but then I also have my gallery that which when I have shows is I'm just trying to get it to pay the rent for the studio. And then I also do treatments for directors as like a side hustle thing.
Okay.
Where, if
they're pitching a script, you can put together a visual sort of board or a deck that goes with the pitch.
It's what it is. Yeah. It's mostly for these 2 companies, Anonymous and some such. So I'll do like Autumn DeWild or Kim Garrick or Patrick Daughters, so very well.
Sure. Yeah, I want to get back into music stuff, but I guess but we're at a point now in this conversation where I don't want to push it to the end. I mean, where is the thing I want to inflect here, just because it's so much on my brain, is where is AI touching you? Point to the doll. Where on the doll is AI touching you? Like, how is this working with you, against you, for you? I mean, sort of what's your intake as a snapshot of today? I mean, obviously it's changing around us all the time.
So far, I have the fear of everybody else, and we know that it's going to be taking away lots of creative stuff. I use it as a tool. I use it sort of like before. I remember once I was working for this artist, Akunle, and he had this thing called Tio Tequila. Anyway, I had to use an agave plant for some of the artwork. And I'm like looking at Shutterstock and trying to like find images of an agave plant that I could bring in Photoshop and manipulate and turn it into something cool. And I just couldn't really find the right images or something that looked interesting. So I went to AI and tried, agave plant, blue light coming from this side, red light coming from that side. And the prompt came back and I was like, holy shit. This looks better than the stock photos that I'm using that I have to pay for. And so for me, I realized at that moment I can use it as my stock photography. If I need a couch, I can put how I want that couch to look and the angle of it, and then import that and then use that to help me. And so I do use it for a lot of my work with compositing things and trying to make stuff. And right now I just think of it as a assistant, sort of, where it can help me generate things and or clean up stuff in Photoshop. Uh,
I feel like it's
it's
everywhere in so many ways that are like, there's the big sort of career ending things, and then there's the general like the day-to-day sort of assistant-y sort of stuff, or like when you Google something, like 90% of what I'm reading off of my quick Google search, like for the name of a restaurant or a band or a movie, I'm getting AI just served to me without asking for it. It's like it's become an opt-in sort of thing. Our interactions with AI are so ubiquitous.
I mean, how I think about what I'm hoping, who knows? It's probably going to get much worse. We know that it's probably going to. But the way I like to hopefully think about it, let's go back to Liars, that first record, where when I came in as the drummer, I also came in as what's now the creative director, art director, and designer. I knew that I was going to design everything because that was my role before. And I think that was some of the charm of asking me to be in it. They knew I could play the drums. They also knew that I love design. I love art. I already started working with them. We were working good together. But the reason why I bring that up is when I already came in, they already had a loose sort of concept of what they wanted the record to be. And they wanted the record to be sort of about witches and witch trials. And there was all these like weird coincidences that were happening. We started recording on what was called Walpurgis night, which is this main witches night that we didn't really realize. And there was all these little things that led us to that. Politically too, they were wrong, so we drowned. I don't know if you know what the background of that title is. That's how they discovered if you were a witch or not. They would drown you, and if you died, you were not a witch. So that's how they persecuted women back then. Different how we persecute women now, but not too much of a difference. And we were making that point of, persecution and women, fucking patriarchy. That was part of it. So we came up with a concept, and then it was, how do we execute visually this concept? And how do we tie in the whole campaign together? And how do we make everything aesthetically pleasing, as well as being a representation of this concept? So if we're talking about AI doesn't come up with ideas. AI executes your idea. And what I get paid for isn't just how I can put type on a page, or if I think it should be red or blue. It's what is my idea. And my ideas are worth money. When they're like, oh, hey, can you just present us with some ideas and we'll see if it works? And I'm like, no, because that's what I get paid for. That's actually what you're paying me to do, is come up with an idea. And so I know it's not the most popular opinion, but it's kind of like what AI is probably going to do for a lot of artists and designers and musicians and creatives, is push out a certain amount of mediocre, or pushing out a certain amount of not so good at it. If all you can do is render a horse really beautifully with a pencil, and that's all it is, it's a beautifully rendered horse, what's the point of that? AI can do that. But so why am I looking at this horse? Why do I care about the horse? The horse needs to have some other idea behind it to make me interested in it, to want to view this. So it does have to push our ideas, hopefully, further than the execution of just art, or the execution of just not art,
stock images or something.
If it's just a picture of a face, I don't fucking give a shit. Make me think more, push what we're supposed to be here for, and what your ideas need to stand out more, and ideas are what's interesting, not
Yeah. Well, to me, it's still, maybe this is just the infancy or where it's at now. And the evolution will sort of address these different things of it, but it just hits the eye. in such a displeasing kind of way where you instantly can like in the way that like commercials kind of get zoned out. Like, okay, well, I want to watch the show because there's a narrative, there's characters I'm invested, there's creators, there's actors, there's all this stuff that comes with like a piece of media that you're interested in. And then when the commercials come on, or when, you know, the song ends and a commercial comes on the radio and you're like, I just want to turn it off. I'm just like, this is noise. This is like, I'm not interested. You don't have me. And I feel like the same when I'm seeing AI stuff. It's like, oh yeah, there's that garbage. It kind of gets like a smear of color and stuff. And again, the complexity might become more realistic, but even at that, it's like like you said, the why, or sort of I don't know. And I think it'll probably like CGI, where it'll be served up in little bits and pieces and little things and in a scene and something in a bigger piece of work. And you go, well, the work overall looked great. I didn't notice that can, originally when they shot it, that can was blue and then they changed it to red. It didn't really, you know what I mean? Like those little things, you know, or like they extended the scene far beyond, like they only shot it on, you know, they had shot it in a studio and then it looks like they're on the moon. Okay, if that's relative to the story, then that's fine. You know what I mean? But it's just, the overall idea of it isn't gonna. I don't know. It still takes somebody in it, but it's a tough one. I just feel like there's the bubble burst that just feels so ready to burst. Where anytime the technology overtakes the talent or the creative, you're just like, it's literally the cart before the horse. Like this thing isn't going to drive itself.
I think about it. I loved the Marvel Universe, superhero movies, all that kind of stuff. And I really like that stuff. And like, let's just say Doctor Strange, when like Doctor Strange came out or something, I was like, this looks fucking incredible. This is so rad. The way that they're just creating these things and moving and the graphics and the effects, that you're just like, this is so fucking rad. And now, whenever a superhero movie comes, it has all the sparkles and the flipping of the realities and all that. But the story, I know the story already. Before I even watch the movie, we know this person's not going to die. We know this person's going to win, or that person's going to, you know the story. And so it becomes really boring. And I think that goes back to the idea of what I was saying before, where if things are just about how it looks, and AI can make it look great, but what's the idea? And what's the story? And I've never been a big horror fan, but these days I do like horror. I love A24 because I don't know what the fuck's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen in the story. I don't know what the monster or the evil or the scary thing is. I don't know how it's going to twist into this thing, but I know there's going to be a twist, but I know I can't predict it. And I like trying to predict it, and I'm always wrong because I'm not really good at that, but I'm always wrong, and I like being wrong because it's
the journey.
Exciting. What's going to happen?
Yeah,
it's the journey.
Yeah.
It's the unknown. And so, kind of the same way I think that you're saying, it's like, yeah, okay, we can make it look amazing, whether it's AI or CG, but what's the story? Yeah. So hopefully it'll push idea more, but really for me, the scary thing of AI is disinformation. It's not knowing if this animal is real. Is that a real insect? Is this a real, I'm watching the video of like the cop yelling at the ICE people wanting to arrest him in New York. And I'm like, fuck yeah. And then I'm like, oh wait, what? This is fucking AI, and there's those, I don't know if you saw the like welfare check AI videos of like women like screaming that it's horrible.
Yeah.
It's horrible. The things that they're putting out there and the disinformation in a world already where we're battling with so much idiocracy that this thing is like, that could just be the end of the world because there's no truth anymore at all. And that's what scares me more than taking away the creative jobs.
Because I think in some ways it almost gets you to question your own eyes or your own experience. And, and in some ways, and in some ways that might be that kind of thing where I would hope it'd be our generation, but if not us, I always, kick hope like a can down the road. Like, okay, guys, you guys got to figure this one out. But we're to the sense of like, if you can't trust what you're seeing, then why would you watch it, anymore? At some point you just turn off. And I think that's the bigger part of all of this is there still is a human, you as much as this capital and media, push wants to just push money, push through you to get to your money. You still need a human interaction somewhere in this. And if people aren't people, as long as they understand they have a choice of what they consume or not, as long as they're given something, then they could choose to like, I'm just walking away, you know what I mean? Where I would imagine kids may find a way to just be like, nope, nothing on here is real. This is all used. I only feel terrible when I look at my phone. So I'm not going to look at my phone anymore, or these kinds of experiences.
That's what I'm hoping for the future. That's what I'm hoping for my kids.
Yeah.
I'm hoping this next wave of rebellious youth is within information, and I'm hoping the bands that are going to be the 12-year-olds now when they're 16 and whatever, our kids, I'm hoping that they're going to be like, fuck social media. I don't want anybody to know what I'm doing at all times or what I'm eating. If you want to see our band, you can come to LA. If you want to listen to it, buy the fucking record. We're not going to put it on Spotify. We're not going to put it on these digital platforms. Like, that's what I'm hoping there be a rebellion of this. Here is everything. Mm-hmm. I'm hoping the kids are going to be like, fuck you, I'm keeping it to myself. I mean, we, excuse me. We were able to find bands like that.
Oh, yeah.
We were able to, go to Jabberjaw without knowing who the band was and just be like, let's see who's going to be here tonight. Go to the Smell. Who's going to play?
Experience. Yeah.
Yeah. I know that I like the curation of this club. So I'll just go because I don't know what else to do. And it's Friday night and whatever. It'll be fun, And so I'm hoping that there is some of that, because there is not. You're saying that we have choices with capitalism, but do we? How much?
Yeah. I don't know.
It's like,
it's the kind
sort of fake choice.
These binary sort of things of stuff. Yeah, and either way, they both sides lead to the same owner. It's like you're choosing between two different companies and they're owned by the same company. You're like, oh, okay, well,
and it's too many choices. I don't know if it was Malcolm Gladwell, or it was one of those kind of people, and I was reading something about him when they were talking about this idea of choice. And you run out of salad dressing, and so you go to the store and you're going to pick up some new salad dressing. So you go to the salad dressing aisle and you're like Thousand Island Ranch, Spicy Ranch, oil vinegar, and there's like 10,000 different salad dressing things, and it's overwhelming. And so you're just like, I'm going to go home and put some oil and salt on my salad, and you reject the too many decisions that are sort of there and kind of arbitrary. It's kind of too much.
Yeah.
And it's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. I know. Yeah. It's interesting just sort of seeing what's coming, trying to understand what does this all mean for what's next? I think that's where I'm constantly just in that space of like, I don't really get what's happening now. So, but what's coming, trying to like see past this. Cause I feel like there's a smoke screen of a lot of stuff, depending where you're at with things. But again, just the confusion or just the dopamine rush of just, doom scrolling. Like, okay, I got to get past this into something else. I can't just get locked into wherever I'm, feel like I'm being herded into like cattle. It's like, okay, keep pushing through something and find the next thing.
I really want to hope. I try to stay hopeful in it all. And I try not to bash too much stuff, like music. It's AI music. It's pretty insane how quickly they can just create a song and create a personality. But then I'm hoping, again, in that way, everybody disses Taylor Swift. I have zero problem with her. I think she is a strong woman who writes catchy songs, and I'm all about it. I'm all for her. I hate the dissing of people who are successful. I'm glad Beyonce made a country record. I'm glad that Taylor Swift is selling $8 billion worth of whatever. Like that way much more than I like an Elon Musk, or Spotify owner. Taylor Swift is giving everybody on tour a check for $100,000 or $200,000. I don't know if you saw that video, but like everybody on tour got like, she spent $150 million to give everybody in her team bonuses.
That's great.
And it was like 6 figures. So she's doing something rad. Spotify is given to AI weapons. So, but the people who are going to be hurt by AI music, I believe, will be more people like Taylor Swift than bands like The Locust. I know they're not together anymore.
Sure.
Rest in peace.
Yeah.
But that kind of thing. I heard some band Black Midi the other day, and there was a song that I really liked by them, and it was a weird song, and they're a weird band, and I was like, okay, right. I mean, AI can't do that as well. They can make a Taylor Swift and a million Taylor Swift songs. She needs to worry. Pop needs to worry. But
yeah, it's again. I think that's where it just comes down to it. It's the question of like, do you like it? I mean, if there's an AI song I like, I guess I like that song. You know what I mean? It's one of those hard sort of questions to sort of look at. Or if there's an AI TV show that is really fun to watch, like, well, shit, that's where I feel like I'm fucked. I feel like at this point it's all speculative in a way where things, because I haven't seen anything that's anywhere as interesting that I would actually watch. You know what I mean? There seems to be this kind of like a Cronenberg-esque dystopian like shorts of AI people turning into like a bag of rats that then turn into a pumpkin that then turn into like something. I'm like, that's kind of disturbing. This is interesting in an artistic kind of creative way, but also this, I know it's this AI thing. So I was like, I like they're leaning into the horror of it. I feel like this instant sort of aversion and repulsion from once I understand that it's AI, and then seeing the content sort of reflect that repulsion. I'm like, ooh, this is really disturbing. This is realistically like gross and strange. But I feel like in terms of anything I've seen in AI on social media, an Instagram thing comes up, I'm like, okay. Well, giant glob monster that was a mom feeding a bird now has turned into this like Akira-sized baby, like going radioactive. Like, all right, that was cool. Good for them. Yeah. Again, I don't know what I'm going to do with it. You know what I mean? But I was like, in terms of like actual things versus, night vision of bunnies jumping on a trampoline. I'm like, okay. Sorry. I didn't mean to derail us into a whole AI.
No, because you're right. Because I feel the same way. There's like all these videos. I'm like, what the fuck is that? And then I'm like, right, this is AI. Like, but it's really interesting, but again, it's interesting because of the prompts. It's because of the person who comes up with the idea for creating that thing. It wasn't like you just wrote to AI and said, make something fucking weird and cool. They'd be like, and so they did have to write it like a writer. But on the flip side of that is, friends who are set designers and, production designers and editors and, there's a lot of jobs that are going away. And that's the part that's, a bit scary there, is that so much is going away, and even if maybe it's grossly out of proportion, like, do you need that many people to make a movie? Do you have to spend $10 million to make a 5-minute short of a movie? I think that you can find ways out of it. Or maybe people got a little spoiled with the excess for a little bit. But then at the same time, it's just going to be the studios that make all the money. It's not like
it was ever
the few people
equity.
Working.
Yeah, no, I mean, it definitely feels like LA's changed, in the last 20 years, certainly since, kind of being here. Definitely there was that sort of industry town sort of thing where every restaurant or bar you went to was filled with grips or carpenters, or, you know what I mean? Like the Valley was, owned, houses in whole neighborhoods were owned and lived in, and kids ran around, and the parents worked in the industry, just some version of whatever the industry was. And there was a way in, and you'd get back pocketed into the unions, and you got paid. And there was a lot of people because everything shot here too. And you could just be on, you just be on a set or for, the whole year. And I feel like that's not really happening as far as I know, but I mean, I was never really in that world of stuff, but it seemed like everyone around it's sort of what propped up Los Angeles at large. All the bars, restaurants, bakeries, coffee shops, malls it was all money being spent by people that worked in the industry.
Absolutely. It was.
And I don't see that happening as much now.
No, it's completely, I think, stopped. And I think these people who thought were unionized, they had a very set career in that world, all of a sudden are like, I don't know if this is going to get me to the goalpost. I'm 55 years old and my shit was locked in. And now it's like everybody's like, I'm not getting work. I don't have jobs. And, You know, people don't know where does the commercial go? How do the people who are in the commercial get paid? You know, it's a crazy.
Well, and it's shifting on so many
Whoa.
levels, you know, too, where you have like Oracle, Larry Ellison buying Paramount, and then now going to buy Warner Brothers, and it's just all going to be subsumed into this sort of private, public, Saudi sort of propaganda machine to sort of, you know, push forward, you know, agendas in a way that would have never been more straightforward. And in terms of, you know, where the media was always some kind of propaganda machine and tool in one way or another, but now it's just this sort of bold-faced sort of arms of like, you know, that's the thing that seems like it's being pitched now for moving forward is like every company or every division, every silo of marketing will just have their own streaming network where you just go and watch stuff produced specifically for specific companies.
Well, but they've tried that and they failed there too, right? Isn't that like Disney's like, we could do that? And they're like, actually, we need to now join up with Hulu and all this stuff. And Netflix is like, oh, we'll just do this. So it's becoming, you know, just three companies that are going to be, and then the mega rich and the whole middle class is pushed out. And then everybody's struggling to like figure out. I was thinking about it yesterday driving home. I was like, you know, we're almost in this point of watching those Waymo cars drive around and like how people are just have trillionaires now and everyone has so much money. And I'm like, it could be a utopian state if people wanted it. But the people who are in control of all the money do not want that and they just want more. But we are close to a place where if people weren't such fucking psychopathic assholes, that there would be a way where we could just do all this without having to pay rent. You know?
Right. Yeah. Well, you start to see the lines. You're like, this is a construct, right? This is a thing that isn't. It's designed. The rules are designed against you. The deck is stacked against you, and it doesn't have to be this way. That's where. Yeah, I love all the memes of like of the new kids, the 20-year-olds joining the workforce, and like, I guess I work here, maybe, you know, this sort of thing of like where, you know, there was I think you live through enough pandemics and global collapses and financial upsets and wars and things, you know what I mean? At some point, this generation is going to have their own, you know, their own sets of values that are not going to reflect those of the generations before in ways that are going to be significantly scary and frightening. You know, I always think back to like the real problem of the 60s was the hippies weren't buying commercial products. And that was the influx of opiates coming out of Southeast Asia through Vietnam, and you know, to sort of derail and offset this kind of new alternative culture post World War II, because they weren't buying things. You know, this agrarian idea of living off the land and having your own farm and living, you know, like was a threat to the capitalist, you know, utopia of post World War II American expansion and globalization and colonization of factories everywhere, and exploitation of third world countries, you know, to the point where, so it's like, you know, there's a definitely an agenda out there that's getting served, but the kids will always push back, and it's almost in a subconscious level, you know, where you can just feel that thing of like, oh, I'm being pushed into this pattern, and you're like, how do I get out of, you know, where's my rebellion, where's my moments to take those stands, but it won't look like what we saw. And I think that's what's always interesting, how the generation war is constructed too, in ways of like, why are they doing this? Well, we should be doing that, but we don't fundamentally understand their environment sometimes, is how I always try to keep that shoe on the other foot and kind of look at it like, well, they're reacting to a world. The
younger kids, the youth.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the world they're growing up in really looks nothing like the world we grew up in. No. You know, and so I have to always give that benefit of a doubt and just understand, like, what does it look like to you? What is the context in which your rebellion will take shape, and how do I amplify that and support it or guide it or not, or get out of the way, or get run over by it too? Maybe, you know, there's always those kind of moments of like, oh shit, maybe I'm the problem. Maybe our generation is the problem, you know, and get out of the way and let these kids fix something. Cause I feel like our generation in that generation right before us, the Gen X sort of stuff, was really denied any sort of power leverage within the larger political conversation. You know what I mean? That we didn't really get that person, like, you know, past Obama's term, or even with under Obama, that there wasn't the crop of the great leftists sort of things. And it's happening now and popping up in some ways, but really that those 40 to 60 year olds were sort of locked out for all of the, where they should have been rising to ascension through the early aughts in our time frame when we were young to support these people. We were protesting Iraq, but we weren't, rallying behind that generation of politics that would have helped provide an infrastructure that obviously the left is lacking. Sorry, this turned into a whole NPR political show, but so it's like, you wonder like, wow. Yeah.
It goes to the boomers too, right? And
sure. Well, they didn't give up power, but we didn't take power. Like but part of that was the apathy, I think, of that Gen X sort of world was like Gen X was sort of shut out. And I guess this has been a thing that's come up on the podcast a bunch too, of looking at Gen X nostalgia and sort of what shape does that take of the most like satire, most deadpan, like ironic generation ever. You know what I mean? Where it's like, oh, well, now you're old and care. Or care about looking back, but in a way that's like not bad, but also like what did this all mean? Where does this all like add up to in this sort of generational math of when you look back on the life and the legacy of Gen X?
I mean, I think you're right there when you talk about politically, like, I remember storming Westwood and sitting, no blood for oil and all of those kind of protests. But at the same time, I didn't even know what a midterm election was until 2016.
Sure.
Like after Trump's first president, like, oh, you can vote in the midterms. I'm like, what are you talking about? Voting's not for another 2 years. They're like, no, these are the midterm elections. I'm like, what the hell is that? And I shouldn't be a 40-something-year-old man who doesn't know what a midterm election is. So we were sort of protesting, but they knew that we didn't really understand the full game, and no one was telling us the full game. That is the only thing I could say about politically now, which I think is hopefully the good part of what's coming out of all this, is that the youth is more aware of how things are working and what you need to do in order to make change. And that, yes, protesting is good and all that kind of stuff, but we need people in offices. We need,
it's not just being against something. It's about being for someone who can actually speak for you and represent you, make those changes, right? Putting good people in power,
use our voting,
holding them accountable, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I think
and the same with our money. I'm just about off of Spotify. I've just got to switch over. I mean, it's not like Apple's any better, but I fucking hate Spotify. It's like he single-handedly destroyed musicians' livelihood by the model that they had. They had a way to make a new model, but they didn't. They decided to, again, just take from the artistic people who are horrible business people, and they're just like, okay.
We all walked into it, face first.
We do. We stand up and we're walking into that slaughter. It's
Yeah, it was easy picking, but again, there's always just that blind hope in the future. I mean, I've been just supporting physical media through this holiday buying season. Like, just go buy something real from independent people. And it's kind of been my rallying cry through this whole podcast. I'm sure listeners are sick of hearing me talk about it, but just, support artists, go to live shows, go buy things from people, go do that. It does matter. It does make a difference. And for whatever my little voice shouting into the void is, that's my hill. I'm going to stand on.
I mean, that's sort of what I've been trying to do with this gallery that I started, about a year or so ago. The thing that really started it was I was sick of posters on my wall. I didn't want to have posters anymore. I'm a fucking adult, 50. I need more than posters. But I can't afford art. And art is incredibly expensive. And so I was like thinking, how could I make art affordable for people like me? And some of it was going to like Tunde, who's an amazing artist who most people don't know that he has this art. And you're like, if we were going to sell something for $200 or $500, what does that look like? And so when I have a show, the idea is that price it low, price it inexpensive, and make it small and sell to people like us. So it's because the art world gets kind of fucked in that world too, where everything is $50,000. And even our friends who are amazing artists, like you're friends with Ed Templeton, you couldn't buy one of his pieces,
Yeah.
you'd be lucky, he'd have to give you one. And then you're like, awesome, thank you. But then asking for one is kind of like saying, hey,
can I have your car? You got that BMW sitting in the car? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the art world
That's how it kind of feels.
That whole art world thing is a weird money laundering scam at the end of the day for rich people to sock away their investments and stuff, but still, yet there's good people, there's talent, there's artists trying to make a living even in this corrupt, weird, gallery system.
But most likely, I don't know Ed Templeton, but if you went to him and said, hey, if you had a show where you had to sell everything for $100, would you want that? Could you come up with something? And it's like, look, the clientele is mostly just skater kids and people like us who are going to be buying that. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure someone like him would be like, yeah, I've got an idea for something. I'll make a whole bunch of Post-it note drawings, or I'll just make a whole bunch of whatever it is, old photographs, a shoebox he has that's been sitting in his room for 10 years. He's like, I'll throw these in cheap plastic frames and let's sell them for $100 each. And then everybody was stoked, I have one of his drawings that I gave my son Bear because it was through Aaron Rose's sale when he had it here, and he was selling these Ed Templeton drawings for $50. And they just fly off the thing. And the people who got these are like, they're like so stoked. This guy got so much Mark Gonzalez stuff. And he was just like a kid and bought it for his friends and but was just like, he's like, I can't, he's been my favorite. I fucking love him so much. And, you're able to put these in the right places. And I'm hoping that mentality can start in other things too. This idea of how to give back a little bit and maybe not, I don't know.
Yeah. You got to do what you can. And that's the thing too. I always just, especially as we get into these older years and have families and kids and stuff, it's like, you really got to just protect yourself and your little unit and your little clan and just do what works, affect the change you can within your own sphere and raise your kids right. Live your life according to what makes sense to you and how you do that. And, all those little decisions add up to something at some point. You know what I mean? I think my wife and I are always talking about those kinds of things, and you go, yeah, but there's so much more to be done. Like, of course there is. And it'll always be that, not to be not looking for a cop out or lazy execution, but it's like, but if you go off the deep end and you're, and just raising a family and everybody's doing the same everyone's doing that same dance, if you're a parent, and it's like, there's so much time and energy you need to really put into that. And I've committed myself to being a very different parent or different father than my father was. And that takes a lot of time and energy. And that's my one saving grace I get to do every day, and it's like, okay, yeah, this is my thing. If I can do this and then figure out how to bring in any kind of money there, get into those little things. Yeah. And go, yeah, there's bigger problems, but at the end of the day, you just gotta, I think that's incredible, doing that with the gallery. It's fantastic. It does make a difference. And like you said, it's small things add up to big things.
It's small things. And you're right. It's about being a parent and how we talk to our kids about that stuff and make them, which is a fear too, because with automation of everything, what are the jobs going to be like in the future? Like, how is there going to be billions of people working? But if all taxis are automated and people don't go into stores anymore and everything becomes this, and that's the part that scares me the most. It's like, what is going to happen to these billions of people who...
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I just have to imagine at some point, for these people to maintain their wealth, they need customers in some regard, in some way, shape or form, even if it's on, some weird thing. They need workers and they need customers to do these things. I mean, we are at the end of the day, that kind of class of people.
But also, it's like what I was talking about, this utopian idea before, where I was driving home last night and I see a Waymo car, driving someone around, and I'm thinking, well, there goes all the Uber drivers, so Uber drivers now don't have jobs and they're getting taken over by this automation and they're making more money, but we still have to go places. But now the money is all being funneled to one person instead of all these drivers. So then how are people going to be making a living? How do people do something, and nobody cares about that Jaguar, Waymo, or whatever. They're just like, how do we make more money? How do we make our bottom dollar more? And yeah, instead of thinking, okay, if we can make $1 billion, anything over that will be free rides. We'll make all Waymos $1 to wherever you're going.
Right.
You know, like there's no kind of give and take. It's like, oh, we're doing so good. Instead of $10 a ride, now it's 20. And you're like, well, you know, so you're taking the jobs, the market, the cornering, everything, and then it's
I think it behooves them in some way to keep some kind of lower class propped up. It's almost on life support, like just making enough to get by, and you know, I don't know. We'll see. I get dark on this topic so quick. I'll probably better I don't say anything into a microphone.
I know. I struggle with you. And with that, I am so thankful. There's times where I gripe about the things that I'm doing and that it's hard to make money. You know, you were saying before, that's cool that people come to me to hire me, but also I'm kind of like a glorified hitchhiker where I'm just like, can I design something for you? I was like, do you need an album cover? How about a t-shirt? Yeah. You know, and it's like, I'm just out there like in this mental fucking war zone of what's my next check?
Right.
Is there a next check? Is it over? Maybe it's over. Maybe no one's going to call me again. And I got to fucking figure this thing out. And now I'm in this situation where I'm, 50 and I haven't had a job, like a real job, ever. Like
which feels like a celebratory thing, and then you start to look around and go, well, if I needed to apply for something else,
that's it.
Where's my
looking on LinkedIn and stuff? It's like, what's your portfolio? It's like, well, I did a little bit in the 90s at a place in here, and then it's just like from 2002 to 2025, it's all freelance. You know, it's like no one's gonna be like, sure, come over to our company. You'll probably stay here for a long time.
Client list includes, you know what I mean? I think you just have to,
that's all that it is.
It's nuts. Well, no, and I think everybody that, our network of friends and family and people that were always able to like, okay, you could pick up something because there's always a million things shooting or working or, someone's got something. A lot of that just dries up too. You know what I mean? I think
there is none.
I don't know. I'm in the same boat.
Because I was thinking recently, like, maybe I need a pivot shift. I'd like something that's more solid. And I'm like, oh, maybe I'll go to KK and see if I can jump into production design. And it's like, wait a second, they also don't have anything there now. And so the film industry doesn't have any, and the music industry doesn't have, and designing for the music industry, which is already on such a small leg that it's like, it's like, where am I going to go? And if I looked on LinkedIn, it's like art director, Wells Fargo. And I'm like, oh my God, like that's what I'm looking at. Wells Fargo art director. What can I possibly do with that stagecoach imagery and red that they need?
The truth is that's probably not even a real job. They have the ghost job listings to make it look like they're hiring more people, and they don't even hire people to do these things. I think more than half the jobs on LinkedIn aren't even real. They're
really?
It's so dark. It's like, even if I've spent the last year really digging into a lot of stuff, and I'm not qualified for most things. I understand, but I'm always happy to get a rejection letter versus just the applications into nowhere. And then I've seen research on it, and you're like, oh, the companies post jobs to make it look like their company's growing. That's a sign of health, so your stock can go up, and you show like, oh yeah, well, here's how many employees we have, and we have 100 job listings open. So we're looking to grow our workforce from this to this. And it's like, they're not actually hiring for any of those things. It's all just sort of a pivot. It's propped up.
Yeah. Again, it's for this sort of the capitalist sort of like make your brand look bigger and how to make more and look more.
Fool the algorithms and the things that are researching this and determining your value and again, it's a lot of positioning. I've had so many funny things. I've had AI write my resume to get reviewed by AI resume reviewers, and I've had, because I just know like, wait, if AI is reviewing all the resumes that are coming in, I'm just going to use AI to write mine to fool the AI, use the computer to fool the computer. And it's like, I don't know.
I've never actually sounded better in my life than when I plugged in my fucking caveman style resume. I'm like, we're good. me make you look good, and it's like,
Yeah.
you
I'm in possession of
And,
a highly refined sense of artistic skills that
yeah,
include
exactly. In a bohemian style thing,
Oh, it's
And I'm like,
fantastic.
right, yeah.
It's great. Well, yeah, we should wrap it up. We blew way past the hour a while back. Where can people follow you and follow the gallery and sort of support everything you're doing? What are the best ways to do it?
Mostly Instagram back on the machine, but yeah, Gross Julian or Gross Gallery. Gross Gallery LA is the Instagram. We can also go to grossgallery.com. You can go to grossjulian.com, but I haven't updated it in like 4 years.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah. Well, I have everything up there. Yeah. I see. I'll put it. It'll be in the show notes. Anybody who wants to know more information and to know. And then what about any music? Any music stuff coming forward?
Man, it is hard to juggle it all. And I am in a band with 2 rad dudes who you're friends with.
Yeah.
But I'm like the squeaky. I'm like the wheel on the like
shopping cart
that's all fucked up and like who's trying to get there but it's me, Dave Scott Stone and Aaron Rose, and we have a band called Sun Valley Symphony Orchestra.
Yeah,
and I love it. Hopefully
some music coming out this year.
Yes. I mean, we have all the music. It's just the sort of re-recording and the putting it together. But yeah, I'm quite proud of it. And I love those 2 dudes very much. So I'm quite stoked on it.
Awesome. Cool, man. Well, it was good. It was good to catch up and everybody go out and follow, what's the next Gross Gallery show? Is that ready to promote or market? Or
I think it's going to be, there might be a show in January, but still unsure. But KK Barrett's having a show on, I think we're going to do it on Valentine's Day or a day or 2 around that. That's going to be him in February. Amazing. We've got Hannah Hooper from Group Love coming up. And we also have Christian Joy is going to also do something. Those are some of the people that are lined up for the beginning of 2026. And, like I said, they're always a bit in music. I like that they're people who don't always get to show their work in a normal setting, but they're rad artists,
Yeah, that's great. Well, that sounds like fun. Cool. Yeah. All right, everybody. Yep. Go to Gross Gallery and follow Julian. All right. Thanks.
Okay. Talk to you later.
Boom. There we go. Julian Gross, thank you so much for coming on to the show, the Hyphenated Show, discussing your hyphenated life and many hats of many projects and creative endeavors you pursue and excel at. I shouldn't just say pursue. You thrive at. You push the bleeding edge of art and commerce and design and music and curation and 10 other things that I forgot we talked about. But if you want to know more about Julian, you can go follow him on the Instagram, Gross Julian, at Gross Julian is his name there. You got at Gross_Gallery_LA. You also can follow his website or go to his website, grossjulian.com. Hire him. He is available to be hired. You can employ Julian to make you rad things if you liked everything you talked about. Let him design your record cover. Let him design your t-shirt. Let him design his zine. What do you want to do? Make something cool with Julian is what you should do. You can also go to his gallery in Chinatown. But to find out more about that and the shows he has coming up, go to grossgallery.com and follow him on all the platforms so you know what Mr. Gross Julian is doing with his Gross Gallery, right? Whatever shall happen next there in the Gross Gallery world, you will find out by following him on the Instagrams and going to the website, grossgallery.com. Thank you, Julian. I appreciate it. Fuck ice. We got this one. All right.
When I was super young, I was in the graffiti world of Los Angeles. So, I mean, as long as I can remember, when I was 13, 14, I started, which is really typography, right? It's the joy of letters and type. And yes, of course, maybe a little bit of the vandal and a little, but growing up in Venice, it's kind of par for the course.